Somebody give me a thumbs up if they see a flashing red light on your screen. Awesome, thanks. Well, hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm Jim Taylor from the Oregon Department of Education. I work on the secondary, post-secondary transitions team, work principally around the subjects of career technical education and career guidance for the state, pre-K through grad school in career guidance and career exploration. So glad to have so many people here, and there will be folks joining us. As they come in, we'll continue to post this first request into the chat, which is we would love to know who is here. So if you wouldn't mind putting your name, the school that you represent, or the institute or the region that you're working with, the ESD possibly, and so folks can get to know who's in the room with you. If you go to the participants link on the Zoom meeting, you can open up participants, and if you hover over your name, you can change your name as you wish. You might even want to add in what school or ESD or region you represent on the backside of your name there. So we are recording today's event. Please hope that you'll keep your camera on for folks that are watching. When people are presenting, that's when your face might pop onto the recording. So that would be myself, Amy, and Beth, primarily as we're sharing screens. We would like to just state, and I would like to state that I personally think that we want these conferences, these gatherings, to be a place where we really fill our heads and our hearts. We definitely know that we have a lot of content to share with you, and we ask you all to engage fully and richly so that we can have that kind of heart-filled moment, as well as we think about opportunities for our middle school youth that are going to be presented here in this pilot project. So a huge welcome. So as you're putting into the chat who you are, where you're from, I'd like to acknowledge the many folks that are with us today that are leading as our pilot project coordinators. And if they've got their face on, maybe they can wave at you as I call them out. Specifically, Beth and I want to acknowledge Brooke Rich from High Desert, Debbie Johnson from MWEC, Beth Molenkamp from PacTech, Gina Castro-Brandt from South Coast ESD, and Carla Clark from Southern Oregon ESD. These folks are our pilot project coordinators. They have a whole great team of co-coordinators and team leads and school ambassadors that are working with them as well. You will get to know them all much more as we move through this process together. So thank you for the great lift and all the energy that you are all putting into this. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Beth, who is going to run through a few of the nuts and bolts for today.
Yep. Hi, everyone. This is Beth Wiggum at ODE. I'm, as Jim mentioned, his colleague. We work really closely together. My position supports career and college readiness, as well as comprehensive school counseling programs. And so some of the nuts and bolts that we're going to cover for today are, Jim had mentioned we're already going to be recording. We've automatically muted everyone so to limit feedback. So go ahead and familiarize yourself with the mute button and feel free to unmute if you want to speak. Also, Jim mentioned we'd love to see your faces and for you to see each other. So please turn on your camera if you're able to, or if you feel comfortable doing so. And then also Jim mentioned about adjusting your name as a participant if maybe it's named something else, just so we can put your face to your name. And then if for any reason you need a break, please feel free to take one. Just make sure you turn off your camera just to avoid any distractions or us recording your background, what's going on. And then lastly, we're going to be using Padlet today. And so we'll put the link in the chat in just a few minutes. And this is going to be a way for us to capture responses through what we cover today. And then also we want you to leave it open during the presentation just so that we can continue to add to it throughout our time together. So I'm gonna pass it back to Jim. Thank you. Jim, I think you might be muted.
That's why Beth Molenkamp was nodding her head at me. Okay, thank you, Beth. Just do that. Thank you. Our presenters today are going to introduce themselves as we come up to them. And I think one correction on the screen there is that Brooke Rich will be presenting from Central Oregon from High Desert during our discussion of equity. So those are the folks helping us out today. Each of them will get a chance to say hello as it comes up. Our learning objectives for today, so that we have some aligned purpose, is to understand the collective purpose and outcomes for the pilot project, identify ways to center our equity and access through intentional conversation, and today we'll guide some of that conversation around data, and then how to use the YouScience and the Oregon Open Learning and Oregon Oregon Open Learning and Open Educational Resource Platforms, which are going to be our resource hubs for the work that we're all doing together. Beth?
Yeah, so we created some community agreements, which are kind of like our group norms, but we're going to use these today to guide our conversations. So what we want you to do is really ground in and speak from your own personal experience, local and immediate life experiences. Everyone here, we know you all have a wealth of information and experiences that you'll be able to add some richness to our conversation. So please speak up today. We're excited to hear from you all. And also we want to honor and hold space for each other. So take space, make space, whatever you need. We want us to be able to listen to each other and learn from each other. And then also we want to acknowledge and hold space for that there may be some discomfort in topics, discussions that we have, especially around students and data and student interpretation of things such as YouScience results. So we'll have a discussion on that. And then also last, we just want you to practice self-care, look after yourself, you know, whether that's emotionally, physically, or spiritually, whatever you need as we move through our time together today. So I'm gonna pass it back to Jim.
Jim, you're muted.
Did it again? Thank you very much, Margaret. We're going to use the Padlet today. That's 2 strikes there, Brooke. You keeping track of that? What? The Middle School Career Exploration Padlet, as you open that link, you'll be prompted to enter, to sign in possibly. If you do that, that will allow your name then to be added in quickly as a prompt when you post. I'll give you a quick demonstration on posting. So as we work through our different subject matters, you can always go back to this through the entire course of our time together, and we'll also leave it open for the week following. So if you have additional thoughts you want to put in, we'll be checking that constantly. So let's imagine, oh, Brooke's already got something in there. So you hit plus, you can give it a title, test post, you can go down to the right something. I'm going to do the quick jibber jabber right there. And if I click anywhere else on the screen with my mouse, it will enter that post into the format. So plus sign gets you into a post. Clicking anywhere on the screen will enter it into the chat for everyone. Then you can go in and add a comment to Brooke's comment on Career Tree, to Carla's comments on Oregon Connections, and down the road today, we're going to go in and star things that are high priority for us or that we want to put some special attention to. So as you're reading folks' posts, you can rate them, click on the rating and give it a star. And you can also add additional comments to the information that they're putting in. So please use this as an interactive platform for us all to engage with one another. Does anybody have any questions around signing in or getting started? If you're unable to get a sign-in name and it posts you as anonymous, would you please consider putting your name in the test, this upper section that says title, maybe your initials or your name, so we know who's putting out the information if we have a need to reach back and talk to you further about that. So Beth is going to cover our vision of success for today.
Great, thanks, Jim. In case you missed it, I put the Padlet link in our chat that will take you to our next activity that we're going to do right now. So what we want to do together is that we're going to create a vision of success for this pilot project. So you may not have received any information about what's happening for the pilot project, or maybe you received pieces of information or you've been heavily involved. But what we want you to do is focus on and think about what do you wish for students? So think for a moment, what would this pilot project, so our work together, what would it look like, sound like, feel like if every single student had the information, the resources, the support, and experiences that they needed to make informed decisions about their future? What would it look like? And we want you to write your response in Padlet. So after you think for a moment, write your response in Padlet in that first column and be very clear and specific, because we want to get clear and specific about what that looks like, sounds like, feel like. And we're going to wait just a moment for you to add your responses.
If you're having any problems posting in Padlet, please place it in the chat and we will pick it up and put it in for you. Thank you.
So we see some responses over in Padlet. Go ahead and read through what some people have been putting in, and people still may be thinking and adding to it. Please go ahead and, like I said earlier, continue to add to the columns that are in here, especially around this as maybe the vision changes or grows as we go throughout today. And, we know that students need different pieces of data or information about themselves as they progress on their career journey. They need access to resources to explore careers in depth and guidance from adults about what it all means and how to get to where they want to go. And also, how do they navigate those barriers and transitions along the way? We also know that they need high quality experiences that are informing their decisions about careers that would make a good fit for them based on what they know about themselves. So the question is how do we provide all of this in a systematic way that ensures every student gets what they need? So we're going to start to explore this now, and I'm going to hand it over to Jim, and we're going to start to dive into it.
Beth will put a link in the chat that will open up a Google document with all of the information on these 2 slides. So we're not going to sit on this too much other than to say that ODE presented the following that you see bullet points as purposes and outcomes for presenting the pilot project to the field. And we received absolutely fantastic applications from the field. And in that, we drew out the next set of bullet points that were seen consistently across the regions. And I want to focus specifically on the top 2, the efforts to energize supports for historically underserved and underrepresented student groups, and this opportunity to braid funds and braid projects to expand and strengthen opportunities and outcomes for students. So these are presented to you so that you might consider these as talking points and opportunities for conversation with your staff as you begin implementing YouScience. And then, of course, we're always looking for that additional feedback from you. If there's a purpose and an outcome that comes to light that you would like to share across the regions, share that to your project coordinator, and we have consistent meetings to share the knowledge and what's happening in this entire statewide pilot project. So those are presented for information purposes and to help support your work on the early stages of implementation. I'm going to go back into the Padlet for a second and just again encourage you to keep this open and running as we're working today. And at any point as we're having conversations, as you're listening to Amy's share from YouScience, as we're having a conversation about equity, what are some things, looking at column 2, what are some things that are currently occurring that provide opportunity for career exploration and awareness in your area? And or what have you heard that works really well in other places? Don't be hesitant, do not hesitate to share that with us. The third column, what are perceived gaps that exist in your area or you believe statewide in pursuing and providing career exploration awareness? And then as we continue to develop thoughts around intentional and innovative ways to share career awareness and exploration with our students, specifically how you can develop those around a student's aptitude. Do you have questions? Fifth column, do you have questions for ODE or YouScience or for your project coordinators? Place them in that. And lastly, if you would think of it from every perspective that you come from every lens that you have, whether it's a parent, an aunt or uncle, a grandparent, as an educator, an administrator, somebody working in the construct of this pilot project, what frequently asked question might you want to see in a one-pager in a handbook that's going to support folks that are going to enter into this pilot project down the road? So what are the important elements that you want to have shared out in a handbook that supports all this work in a frequently asked question? So keep that up and running as we're moving through the afternoon, excuse me. And I think now we're going to move ahead to an opportunity to spend some time with Amy Bradley from YouScience. And I'm going to stop sharing. Amy is going to join us. We'll take 1 second as she's setting up her screen. Are there any questions from anybody in the gathering at this point? And if you arrived after our initial kickoff, if you wouldn't mind putting your name, the work you do, your school, your institute, or your region in the chat so we all know who's with us today, we'd be grateful for that. Listening for any questions and watching the chat or watching for hands on any questions before we go to YouScience. Okay, Amy, we're going to pass it over to you. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me, Jim and Beth. For some of you guys, I appreciate you being on for the third time and listening to me for 3 times now. I do hope that it's been helpful to you. And for everybody joining me for the first time, I just thank you for giving us some time and me some time this afternoon to share YouScience with you. And as I start, or before I start, I do want to just say thank you to each and every one of you. This has been such a crazy academic year, full of lots of unexpected obstacles, joys hopefully as well. But just want to thank you for being just fantastic educators and willing to be in this for your young people to help educating them even through tough and different times. So with that, let me move forward. Again, my name is Amy Bradley with YouScience. I am one of the regional directors. I get the privilege of working with schools in Oregon. Love working with you guys and so many fantastic people through the years that I've spoken with. So thank you. I love working with you, as I mentioned. I've been with YouScience since before we had a product. I'm a little over 7 years now. I do not have all the answers, but as Jim mentioned, please put questions in chat in the Padlet as well. And if I don't have the answer, I can get the answer for you as well. But we'll try to answer all of your questions today. So a little bit about YouScience and our mission. I want to give you the full vision, and then we'll talk about YouScience Snapshot, which is specific for you guys for Oregon, the middle school pilot. You guys will be using our product called Snapshot. That is one of the aptitude-based guidance products that we offer. We also have a version that's built for high school and older. So high school through adults actually use the YouScience Summit. And that is the foundation of what we do. So you see that on that far left side. So our goal is to uncover the talent of our young people, and we do that through aptitude-based guidance. As we uncover that talent, then to better align them to the right academic and career programs using academic advising tools that we offer that will be offered and you guys can use as well through Snapshot. And then our newest piece, we recently merged with Precision Exams, and we now have around 200 industry recognized certification exams that can be purchased at a separate price. So we're bringing all of this together because with certifications, that gives students knowledge and skills. Like here is what they've mastered. And so we're pulling all of these pieces together that you see along the line toward better alignment for the talent marketplace. So whether that's for a full-time, part-time job in the future, internship, apprenticeship, the talent marketplace tab will be rolling out for our high school through adults actually in the next month. And then we also use all of these pieces toward helping you guys better advise and recruit toward post-secondary. And for some students, there's a blend of what you see on that right side, but the heart of YouScience is that every student is unique. We want them to have their own unique path, and our tools hopefully will help them do a better job and make better decisions about how to get there. So with that, the big goal of what we do work toward is to stop this widening skills gap that you see in our country. These are pre-COVID numbers. So that 45% number in the middle, that is college graduates. We're at that 4-year degree pre-COVID that were doing jobs that did not require a 4-year degree. So why is that? And so what we started looking at is we're graduating more students than ever across our country. Those graduation rates are going up. And then we work with local business and chambers who are saying, that's going up as well as college degrees, but we're not able to connect with the talent of our young people. How can we do a better job of connecting? And when we started working with chambers, one of the things they pointed out to us is we've got to start looking at that talent and connecting to that talent all the way back into middle school. So not just at the college level and high school level, but back to where our pilot begins actually with our 7th and 8th graders. So we did create Snapshot. It originally was the summit that every student took at the high school level in a lot of states. And now we have the 7th and 8th grade version that you guys can participate in using. So one other piece behind directing talent, and you guys are really well aware of this, but I do like to mention it because what has happened in our schools through the years is that we've almost used academic measures as a proxy for talent. So GPA, ACT, SAT as they're getting older, but you guys know this, every student has talent. Our economy needs them, we need them, but more importantly, they need to know that they have talent. And that is the heart of YouScience. So how do we get here and kind of where have we come from? When we were looking at, okay, there's that big disconnect, how are we guiding students? One of the things that we actually worked with a man out of Colorado State University. His name is Dr. Rich Feller, former president of the National Career Development Association as well, chief advisor to us. One of the things that he has done in all of his research through the years is really point out that since the 1970s, we have used interest or personality surveys to guide students. So interest surveys, meaning they're answering questions. Are you good at building things? Do you like to build kitchen cabinets? So the interest surveys, what's happening with our young people is that they're very limiting. They get back what they've seen in life, what they've most experienced, and what you'll see in some of the numbers I'll share in a moment is that there is a disconnect between interest, what they've seen, versus what they actually had the natural abilities to do. And we want to uncover those. So another couple of quick pieces of validity. I already mentioned Dr. Feller. I also want to mention a couple of other pieces for you guys. So on your screen, the Ball Foundation, BAB, that stands for the Ball Aptitude Battery. They are a foundation just outside of Chicago, Illinois. They have been researching aptitudes for a little over 50 years. Now, their assessments actually date back about 100 years to the original guru of aptitudes. His name was Johnson O'Connor. But when they started researching aptitudes a little over 50 years ago, they've given it as a pen and paper assessment through the years. That is where aptitude assessments have been housed. We worked with the foundation to digitize their exercises. So we have sole source over this at this point. So instead of taking a pen and paper exercises, students compare taking YouScience to playing brain games. So it is online for them, like playing brain games. I'll show you a little bit more about that in just a moment. But from those 5 decades of research from the Ball Foundation, what we know is that these aptitudes, they actually remain stable over time. There are other ones that change over time. These remain pretty stable, especially once you hit about puberty. So students can take this and get really solid feedback about their natural strengths so that they're making better decisions. So better decisions about what they're selecting for high school, better decisions about CTE pathways, and then beyond into college or other options for post-secondary. The other piece behind YouScience, and I can send you guys validity reports after we speak. I believe Jim and Beth actually have those links as well, but we can get them to you if you want to dive more or deeper into these pieces. But HUMRO is also on your screen listed for you. That stands for the Human Resource Research Organization. They're outside of Washington, D.C. You would have not heard of them, but you have heard of what they developed. So they are a group of psychometricians that helped to develop the Department of Labor's ONET. So they figured out how to measure careers, put them into algorithms, keep them up to date on a yearly basis for our government. So the Department of Labor is ONET. You will see that online. We worked with them to pull it all together within YouScience, and HUMRO is the group that actually published the validity behind YouScience. All right, so a couple of quick proof points to share, and then I'm going to show you guys what it looks like from the student perspective, the administrator perspective, as well as the reporting features that you receive. But on your screen, really early on, we actually had a state throw us in a third-party study. It was the state of Georgia. We were launching there in the Atlanta area. We only had a few public schools using us at the time. They threw us in the mix, and what they were measuring fell under social and emotional well-being for our young people. So they compared us to everything in the market for their state. So they were measuring things like intent to persist, self-awareness, self-empowerment, career exploration, and better career decision making. So for that student, student bringing about relevance, hope, and purpose. We were the only one that significantly improved in all of the areas they were measuring. So they did land on us. They are now in their 4th year of using us in all middle and high schools. And thanks to that state, it's actually the reason we created Snapshot, because they wanted something, and their chambers wanted something going back into 7th and 8th grade as well. So from working with that state, and we do have some other big partnerships, including Tennessee and Colorado, and now obviously working with a big pilot with you guys, which we're so appreciative of. We actually are in every state now, actually also in 15 countries and American schools actually outside of our country as well. But on your screen, here's the reason this is so important. So for you guys that love data, I'm going to show you a couple of data slides that I really like, that I think really emphasize the point of why aptitudes are important for young people to know what their raw talent is. So on your screen, this is a huge sampling. It's 103,000 students. Of these 103,000, if we just looked at their interest-based recommendations, 80% of their top 50 career recommendations fell in the category that you see on the left side. So they get back things like arts and entertainment, education, social work, life sciences, that's psychology, that's counseling. And that makes sense, right? Like that's what they've most been exposed to in life. But at the same time, same students, 0% had interest-based recommendations when it came to high demand in our country, high demand in Oregon, things like architecture, engineering, IT, transportation. So when we looked at their aptitudes, 54% had high aptitude fit for those high demand careers. Do they know? Have they heard about these careers? Do they know they have the aptitudes to do it? And that's what we uncover when they're taking YouScience. And then one more, a little bit of a deeper dive into those numbers from 103,000 students, and that is comparing gender and race. And this is really important, by the way, because if you look on the aptitudes line, you can see how the career recommendations equal out when we look at aptitudes. Interest does not equal out the playing field when it comes to recommendations, but yet aptitude does. So you see those 78, 79, 80% numbers. So no matter gender or race, that absolutely equals out when we look at the recommendations when it comes to aptitude. So how is it that we do this? On your screen are a couple of examples of brain games. So that is what students call them. For some of us adults, by the way, if you go to take YouScience, you might not consider it a brain game if you didn't grow up kind of playing games online. It is engaging for our young people, built for them. For me, I did not grow up doing that. So some of them are very challenging. And by the way, it will be unique based on how your brain works. So we are measuring how you think. We are not asking or measuring what you know. So very big difference from something they typically take at school. So as an example, if you look at spatial visualization on your screen, that is measuring, do you naturally think in 3D or are you more of a 2D thinker? Can you manipulate things in your mind? That's a piece of paper. It is folded multiple times, hole punched, and you quickly tell the computer where that hole punch will be when the paper is unfolded. So B, as in boy, is the answer. If it took you a little bit of time as you were looking at that, you might be a lot like me. I naturally do not think this way. However, I give the example of my daughter because we compared results. She took this back in 9th grade. She's now a senior in high school, but this was her favorite exercise. She thought it was so easy and she thought it was really funny that I thought it was hard. But it actually showed me that yes, we are unique. She is an artist. She paints, she draws, she creates. I draw stick figures. I don't quite do this well. And that is okay because in my career recommendations, please don't put me in a career where I would really need to visualize things in 3D. It's going to be hard for me. I'm not going to be too happy having to do that all day, as evidenced by the fact that I wanted to basically get rid of my computer after I took that exercise. So all of that to share with you, it is unique depending on how your brain works. The exercises are 7 to 12 minutes long. They are timed for speed and accuracy. Someone like my daughter gets through a lot of those spatial visualization exercises. Somebody like me, not so much, and that is okay. So they're just timed out because we are looking at that speed and accuracy piece. So exercises do stand alone as well. And so what that means is that you actually can log out and log back in between any exercise. So with that, let me show you one other slide, and then I'm going to hop off and show you results. So on your screen for best practices in using YouScience with students, there's 3 options that we usually give and recommend. For a snapshot, they could complete it in 1 hour, a little less than an hour. We don't always recommend that because your brain does get tired. It's challenging. We would really recommend splitting it up, like the number 2 option, like splitting it up over a couple of class periods, or the number 3 option, which is actually letting them split it up as long as they wish, even from home. So if students end up being back at home, maybe you come in person for a little while back at home, they can always complete it at home. But the key is to get them started, to do a kickoff presentation, let them know kind of what the expectation is. Not every exercise will be easy, and then scheduling it out for them to complete the exercises. So let me, actually, before I swipe over, or as I'm swiping over, let me answer any questions that we have so far. Beth or Jim, if you guys could help me if there are any in chat or
None in
in
the
the
chat at the moment, but
Padlet.
certainly ask folks to raise a hand or put something in right now or speak out really quick. Nothing popping into chat at the moment, Amy.
Okay. Well, I will keep going, and we will absolutely have more time in a moment for questions, and then at the end as well. So what I swiped over to share with you guys now is the results platform and what it looks like for a student. So it is all positive, and we want them just to start clicking on tabs to see their results. For snapshot, they have your aptitudes and they have snapshot careers. So when I click on the tab, what you will see is for this student, Alex, my pretend student, you're going to see positive feedback about how Alex thinks. So the very first thing they see are the 2 strongest aptitudes. So Alex is a numerical detective, sequential thinker. We do not expect them or even you to know what that means. It is all written so that you do not have to do any interpretation at all. It really is a matter of you just clicking through buttons with your students. We even have a walkthrough video. You can play for them, pause it, have them click, play it. It's about a 5-minute video that you can use to walk through. But on the pie chart underneath, now you will see what it actually means that Alex is a sequential thinker. So there are a few bullet points there, as well as a numerical detective. And then they can click through any of them. So for snapshot, they take 5 aptitudes. So you see all 5 represented on the pie chart. And we want to give them just some positive feedback about how they think. So that's what you're seeing here. So this student, like my daughter, is a 3D visualizer, can easily visualize in 3D, may find some success in things like biology, physics, design as they're getting older. So we give positive feedback about how they think and even some recommendations depending on the aptitude. And then underneath that, they also will see their top 3 areas of interest at this point. Interest changes with them. We highly recommend them maybe a year later retaking that interest survey. We can reset that for them. We would rather really them wait and take it once they hit high school. If they take Summit once they hit high school, then they will automatically retake that interest survey as well. So the high school version is a little longer. We gather more information, 9 aptitudes, plus interest and personality once they hit high school. So top 3 for this student right now for interest is he wants to be investigative, artistic, and realistic. So wants to really research and solve problems, be creative, as well as work with his hands, do physical activity. So from this, and if you notice, I'm going to click in the top left bar. There's little bars that you can click on, and you'll have a drop down there at any time. This is really the best way to toggle through all of the screens. And now I'll go to his career recommendations. So for your students, when they get their career recommendations, it does load all 16, or they can load all 16 career clusters in our country, but the strongest fit for the student are at the top, and then they get smaller the less of a fit it is. So first they will see aptitude. So here's how their brain naturally thinks and works, and here's how that matches into the career clusters in our country. So that's the aptitudes. And then you want them to compare. Okay, so how does it look when it's looking at just your interest and how your interest match to the career clusters? Usually you will see big differences, and we actually see, especially with our girls, you'll see really big differences. But with this student, there actually is one that he has in common. So absolutely he should explore agriculture and natural resources because it's a high interest, and if you look back on the aptitudes side, also a high aptitude fit. So when you click on the career cluster, Alex can then explore all careers that fall under agriculture and natural resources. And then when he does, so he can click on any of these tabs, every career is explorable. So they can come in, they can see other titles it's known by, a day in the life, as well as the core tasks of what you would typically do. Most of the time they won't know a lot about the jobs, and that's the goal, is to have them start exploring what is it that you would do at this job, what are the projections as well. So what you're seeing underneath the map are the national projections, and then clicking on it by state. Is it projected to grow in Oregon compared to the national growth rate, starting average, top salary as well? And then if they keep scrolling down, we do give them educational investment. So here is the roadmap, things that they need to complete in order to get that first job in the future. We want them to already start thinking about those next steps. Once they hit the high school version, we also include majors here. So you will not see majors at this point, but you will see educational summary on the job training, licensing, certification. Those would all be listed if they apply. And then the last piece on the career page is the industry that they would typically work in. So that's what you're seeing now on the screen. And then at the bottom, you will actually see our resources where we pull all of this information from to pull it all together for your young people. Now, they can save any career, and that's absolutely what you would want them to do, is create their own saved career section. Just by clicking on the star, it saves it for them. And if you look up in the toggle bar, now we could look at the students' saved careers. So you do have access to your students' results. I'm going to swipe over and show you what that looks like. But before I do, let me stop and see if there are any questions about the results before I go and show you guys what the administrative portal looks like.
Once again, feel free to put questions in the chat, or go ahead and unmute yourself and speak aloud, or raise your hand. We can help you.
Okay.
Sounds like you're doing great, Amy.
I don't know, either that or everybody needs to grab a coffee real quick. It's that afternoon slump after lunch, right? Okay, very good. Well, I will definitely stop again in a moment and answer all questions too. So I'll show you a couple of more things and then we'll wrap up with you guys. So the administrative portal is a training that we will do with you. So we've got a training video. We're going to set up some implementation training webinars, but that webinar, it actually will cover how to use this administrative portal. It is very easy to bulk invite students to take YouScience by email addresses. Now we do realize a lot of 7th and 8th graders do not have email addresses, so you also have the option of handing out activation codes. But we train you on basically creating groups. You name them what you want to name them, how it works best for your school. It could be, you know, Mr. Taylor's 6th period class as a folder, or you can do it by graduation class year. That is completely up to you guys. Many schools will use the graduation class year. That way it makes it really easy to archive in the future. You can always come back to their results, by the way, even if they are archived. But you name the folders what you want to name them, and then once you've populated them through either a spreadsheet that you can upload or the activation codes, you would come here. You can see all students. You can see how far they've progressed. And so if a student is still working on YouScience, you can click and even see how much time they have left within YouScience. When they finish, you can actually impersonate them and see their results just as I walked through it with you a moment ago. So you completely see their full vision or their full results of YouScience. Now, one other button that's really important to teachers and counselors and administrators that work with students is the reset password button. It's important to me as well because I forget my password pretty often on many sites, but we do give you that that opportunity to reset the student password at any time. Now you also can use, or the student can use, our chat button. That is located in the bottom right corner of all of our screens. That's our support team. They are available and they can chat, they can reset passwords, they can help you if you have an account issue or a question about a student's account. The chat feature is really great, and that's where we highly recommend kind of starting first. So if you have that crazy situation where you're giving students YouScience and you have a fire drill in the middle of an exercise, when you come back in, chat with us. We can reset the ones they were taking. So students would not need to retake all of the exercises. They each save as you complete them. Same for you, by the way. If you're taking YouScience and get distracted or interrupted, you can chat with us. We can reset the one that you were in. So that's a very brief tour of the administrative portal that we will train you guys on. The other piece that's really important is the resource library. So this library, when I click on it, this is your full resource. Anything you'd want to know about YouScience. If you wanted to hop on some more trainings, webinars, we've got those for you. The career guidance tab is what you would also click on to see all of the resources. So you would come down to middle school resources, and then within these tabs is everything you could possibly want. From kickoff materials, the kickoff materials section gives you a PowerPoint you can download and edit. Introduction videos, we've got walkthrough videos and materials, lesson plans. So everything is housed here, really easy for you to access. Everything also is loaded in a way that you can download, edit, and make it your own as well. All right, last piece in YouScience, and probably one of the most important pieces, is actually the reporting that you guys receive. So obviously you can see students individually, but schools started asking us basically to aggregate data. So that is what our analytics do for you. This is the report that you get with Snapshot. It's called the Clusters Report. We show you in the report how your students match into all the career clusters in the country. We give you their top 3. I clicked on the report just to briefly show you how it works. So you can come in, and by the way, your superintendent, your principals, counselors, teachers, anyone can come in, have access to the results, and to run this report at any time. So you come into the system, you can select all to see all 16 of them, or you can just select a few to see how your students match into specific career clusters. So once you select them, and I went ahead and selected all, what you will see in this first section is how many students that have taken YouScience from your school have high aptitude fit, high interest fit into the career clusters. And then you also see the aptitude versus interest ratio. So when you look at the aptitude versus interest ratio, if you look at agriculture and natural resources as the example, 3 times more students have aptitude versus what show interest, meaning they have the natural raw abilities to do it. They maybe don't know a lot about the career, but yet the aptitude is there. So we call that an exposure gap, an awareness gap as well. So if you want to find these 3 students with that high aptitude fit, you can do that in the next section. So in this section, you can export this section as a PDF and then sort it and find those students with that high agriculture and natural resources aptitude. You also can sort it by race and gender if you're working on creating more diversity within different pathways and what students are selecting. But what you see in this section are the top 3 career clusters for each student based on the ones that you selected at the top. And you can export it and sort as you wish. Now, the other great piece behind this other section that I first mentioned to you guys, you can export this section and it gives you that overall raw number. So you can share this. So if you are someone that's working with local business and industry, your local chamber, download this section and show them that yes, your students have the talent. Maybe we need to partner together to do more internships, provide more internships, apprenticeships, or maybe it's a computer lab that needs updated. So this is a really great tab to really help you guys better partner with local business and industry as well. All right, I think that is a lot to share very quickly. So let me be quiet for a moment and see if I can answer any other questions for you guys.
Amy, I have a question.
Yes, is that Brian?
It is Brian.
Hi, Brian. Thank you.
I just want to say that I've completed my testing now, so
Excellent.
That. But when you were going through the screening process of how to screen students, you showed the career clusters as they were broken out. Is there a way for us to select something other than career clusters that are associated with CTE, such as if we really wanted to drill down into sciences, for example? And I know that there's sciences in CTE and everything, but is there a way to screen out things that are maybe not CTE?
Not really at this point, Brian. That's a good question. The reason we left it as career clusters is so it would cover, all careers in the country. So that's where that is. You can get a little bit more specific, once you hit the high school version. There's more reporting options where you could look at top 10 careers for a student. That older version, it gets so specific, as you probably remember. I think we've discussed this, but for everybody that does not know, the high school version and older, it actually specifically matches you to every career in the country. So that version you really could nail down a little bit further, Brian, with your question. That was really good.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Yeah, absolutely. Other questions? Okay. Well, hopefully that was not too much to share with you guys. I thank you for your time. Jim and Beth both have my contact information. If we need to have a offline conversation, I'm happy to do that as well. So just let me know, and I really appreciate your time today, guys.
Thank you, Amy, so much for being on with us today and sharing about YouScience.